So just how tall is Jean-Claude Van Damme? As one of cinema's greatest action icons, Van Damme has appeared in many thoroughly entertaining films, and with a nickname like the Muscles from Brussels, how does his stature match up to that tagline? And exactly what height does Van Damme claim to be? Near the start of Van Damme's career, he was actually cast as the Predator. However, that didn't quite pan out, and the producer John Davis revealed the reason. He was the original Predator until we realised the Predator couldn't be 5'6". He actually needed to be of greater stature. 5'6". Surely that can't be right. Jean-Claude himself has claimed various heights during his career. Back in 1986, he said he was 5'10" and 185 pounds. And then, in 1989, he gave his tallest height to date, saying he was only 5'11", and that due to his long legs and great proportions, he created this illusion that he was taller on screen. When you see a photo like this, then maybe Van Damme's claim isn't so outrageous. Although if you watched a recent film in which they appeared together, it looks pretty clear that Jean-Claude is shorter than Tyson. In fact, he once mentioned that when people met him, they were surprised at his height. "Oh, you're so short. I think they expect me to be 6'4" tall." But maybe they just watched Universal Soldier. When Van Damme was acting beside giants like the 6'4" Dolph Lundgren, the almost 6'6" Ralph Moeller, and the solid 6'5" Tiny Lister, he was bound to look short. But Van Damme went even further. A few years later, when he was making Double Team with the almost 6'7" Dennis Rodman, he asked the director, "Make sure you film us from lower angles so you get both of us in the frame." Comedian Richard Blackwood also had a preconceived notion that Van Damme was a little fellow. However, Blackwood, who himself claims to be 6 foot tall, was pleasantly surprised to discover that Van Damme in person wasn't a little fellow. Instead, he looked about 5'8". Van Damme gave Blackwood that look. But in reply, he gave his lowest height to date, saying he was 5'9". However, in 2011, on Van Damme's own show, Behind Closed Doors, the subject of how tall he was came up, and Van Damme let his own mother measure him. To say Jean-Claude was absolutely delighted with the result would be an understatement, because he clocked in at 177 centimetres. But seriously, whose mother would undermeasure their son? Would you ever call Stallone short? Van Damme certainly did, once saying that being 5'10" is a great height for the movies. Actors like Chuck Norris and Jason Statham are also in that category. But if you're tall, like say Dolph Lundgren, then finding good villains is harder. Sylvester Stallone has great villains because he's short. Van Damme has been photographed with many big names throughout his career, and he generally seems like an average height actor. I think with Blackwood, Van Damme was being very honest about his height, and during his peak years, he was at least in the 5'9" range. But being a film actor for 35 years, especially a martial arts action star, has taken its toll, and I reckon he's lost a fraction of an inch, and today just sits under 5'9".